next question is about understanding the enforcement structure. From your experience so far, how is the NCAA enforcement staff organized, and how do they typically interact with member institutions like yours?
Yeah, so there's team an enforcement team at the NCAA. When these violations come through, they get assigned to someone. They become the case manager for that, and so the interaction is usually really basic. So for secondary or level 3 violations, normally you say, "Hey, here's what we did. Here's what the bylaw says. That's why it's a violation. This is what we're doing to punish ourselves." And typically, the enforcement staff goes, all right, that's good. You've punished yourselves enough. Or, hey, that's good. Add this extra punishment, and that's all of the communication, really.
Okay.
So there's not much for secondary usually if the compliance staff knows kind of what appropriate punishments are. And so something that we do a lot of the time is we'll find case precedent and be like, okay, this school number one reported a violation because they practiced for 21 hours instead of 20. What did they do to make up for it? Well, they practiced 2 hours less, so a 2-for-1 penalty, and they educated their coaches. And the NCAA said that's okay. So we're going to model our punishments for ourselves based off of what other schools have already done. And so they'll say it's okay. Someone else will model them off of us eventually, and it kind of just continues that cycle.
Okay. Um, you had mentioned the smaller and I should say less harsh infraction.
Mm-hmm.
How do you schools like yours distinguish between major infractions and secondary?
Yeah, that is a good question because a lot of the times in the news you hear like, "Hey, they have secondary violations." You're like, "Well, what does that mean?"
Hmm.
So secondary violations are violations that don't necessarily demonstrate a lack of control. So it's something small like, hey, the recruiting period starts tomorrow, but I texted the kid today. So a lot of the time those violations are found either because the coaches come up to us, hey, Jay, I messed up. This is what I did accidentally.
Hmm.
Or, you know, social media is like a blessing and a curse because oh, well, I log on Twitter and I see so and so is recruiting, and I'm like, you got to wait till tomorrow or something like that. So the way you
Hmm.
can tell if it's a minor versus a major violation, usually the secondary violations are a violation of something small in the bylaws. Um,
Okay.
so it's something like, hey, you're only allowed to practice 4 hours a day. We went 4 hours and 15 minutes, 5 hours. Like you shouldn't do it. It's a violation, but that's a small violation and it's easy enough to make up. A
Right.
major violation happens one of two ways. You have a whole lot of small violations that are the same,
Hmm.
so it turns into a major violation,
Yep.
or something really bad happens that shows that there's a lack of monitoring and control in general. So, an example financial aid is a tough section of compliance, I guess, because it's really specific on, hey, this is when you can have them sign, and this is this, and if you want them to re-sign their agreement because it's being renewed, it has to be done by this date.
Hmm.
So let's just say for whatever reason, July 1st is the deadline to re-sign the aid agree or reissue the aid agreements. Let's
Okay.
say for some reason July 1st falls on a Sunday and our we don't send it out on that Friday, we send it out that Monday the second instead. Well,
Hmm.
that's 350 secondary violations all at once.
Oh,
So that potentially could be a major. It normally won't be, but kind of, a repeated pattern of institutional lack of control is
right.
generally what's going to constitute a major violation.
Okay. It's funny you say that because in the current course I'm in right now, we're reading part of our reading is this book right
Mm-hmm.
here, and the section I'm in right now just started talking about the levels of violations. And right before I came on, it talked about or it started to get into lack of institutional control. So I'm like,
Yeah.
this looks pretty good, but I'm gonna save it until I finish and then I'm gonna dive back in. So because it's one of those things that you would think that Division I schools would have enough compliance education that they would keep things under control. But we're human, so things will tend to happen. Um, and so what you thought might have been under control ends up snowballing, and something that was like a level 2 or level 3 ultimately will become a level 1, and then it screws the program.
Yeah, and the best way to describe, like, I think this is straight from the NCAA, is normally level one violations are reserved for like super severe breaches of conduct, right? Like if it's substantial or extensive impermissible benefits. So for instance, now with NIL, obviously players can get paid, but five
Hmm.
years ago, if you take a bag of cash and leave it in a recruit's locker, like can't do that. Or 10 years ago or whatever, can't do
Right,
that. Like that would be a major violation.
right.
But something simple like I messed up and I sent a text to this kid a day early, like that's not going to be something that's severe.
Okay.
And a big
I,
thing that I will say a lot of people don't realize when it comes to violations, the NCAA expects you to have between like 3 and 8, 3 and 10 violations a year that are
mhm.
secondary violations
Okay.
because mistakes happen, kind of like you mentioned, right? Mistakes happen. We're human. So
Right,
if we're reporting 5 or 6 violations every year, that means we're doing a good job monitoring and that we're being honest of, hey, we made mistakes. Where
right,
the NCAA will start launching investigations on their side is, hey, Sam Houston State hasn't reported a violation in 3 years. How is that possible? Have they been perfect for 3 years? No, no one has. So we
right.
report, X number of violations a year.
Hmm.
Um, and the thing that I love about where I work is so I take, integrity just really seriously. And
Hmm.
so we have an administration and just a compliance office in place that are like, hey, like if we mess up, yeah, we're reporting that. And that's what you're looking for in compliance is like you have the support of, hey, we messed that up. Like we are gonna take it on the wrist and do whatever we got to do, and that's okay because mistakes happen.
Right. And it's schools like that that I feel should be setting the example for the bigger schools who try to get an advantage above their counterparts, um, as opposed to just towing the line and doing what you're supposed to. Because at the end of the day, last I checked, schools are nonprofit, yet you have all these power 4, power 5 schools trying to make a dollar, trying to get that extra edge over their next competitor just to stay above them, and it kind of defeats the purpose of college athletics altogether.
Yeah, and I will say like even the big schools, I mean, they're probably reporting the most secondary level three violations
Mhm.
because they have so much staff that
Right.
they are probably catching everything. Now, that's not to say that I'm not monitoring and doing as best as I can, but you know, I have a friend who used to do compliance at Ohio State, and part of his daily responsibilities were, hey, I'm going to go sit at softball practice, and the second that it hits 4 hours on the day, I'm going to ring an air horn, and the coaches are going to get off the field. Like, I have 16 sports, I can't be at every single practice,
Right.
so we use reporting systems, and we have places for our athletes to voice concerns if there's an issue. Um, Something that's really underrated in it shouldn't be underrated, but I mean, I think I have a really good relationship with most or all of our coaches. Like they all have my cell phone number. Half the violations that we catch are a coach goes, "Hey Jay, like I messed up. Here's what I did. Let me know what we need to do to make it right." Because I've worked on cultivating that trust, so where that they can feel like they can come to me and know that hey, I'm not out to get you guys. Like I'm here to make sure that I'm protecting the university, I'm protecting your team specifically, and
Hmm.
importantly, like I'm protecting our athletes.
Right.
So they don't view me as the compliance being the police. They view me as, hey, this guy is an asset to help us.
Right. And that's another reason why I want to get into that field too, is not necessarily be the bad guy saying, hey, you can't do this, you can't do that, or you broke this rule. It's making sure they stay educated on what they can and can't do so that they continue benefiting from the student athlete experience.
Right. Yeah. And yeah. So the way I like to say it is I will do everything I can to find a yes, but if the answer is no, then the answer is no. And our coaches do such a good job of respecting and understanding that.
Cool. And that's that's a huge advantage when you have the coaches on your side. It goes a long way to making sure that the program continues running smoothly and you don't have any hiccups.